for our next guest after giving birth to her daughter Sunday back in 2017. Ferne McCann found herself struggling with more than just, the usual night feeds and hormones. She got to the point where she said she was even terrified to leave the house, all because she was worried about wetting herself. She discovered that childbirth had left her with a prolapse bladder. She's here today to talk about it, which we thank her for hugely, because it's not easy to talk about, Ferne.
No.
And it just helps so many other people watching, knowing it's not just them. And so, Dr.
young
Sarah,
people.
it's very common, isn't it? Is it 1 in 3 women?
It's really common. Yeah, so 1 in 3 women do suffer it. But what I find really interesting is that over a third of those women are too embarrassed to even speak to their own doctor about it. So, putting aside speaking to your partners and speaking to friends and family, you can't even speak to your doctor about it. So it's become so embarrassing, and that's why it's so important that
But it's
people
always
like you come
been
out.
around,
Yes.
and in days of old, women would have just lived with it, right? But you don't have to do that anymore. And we're going to talk about that from the doctor. But when did you realise something was wrong? How soon after being a mum?
I think at first it was a bit of a joke between friends after giving birth to Sunday. It was like, oh, I sneeze and a little bit of wee comes out. So it started off as a joke, and I actually joked about it on my show, but then over time it progressively got worse. And I was like, this isn't normal. I'm 29 now, but I was 28 at the time. I feel very much in my prime, and I just felt like with incontinence, I would associate that to, like, the elderly and something that would happen to definitely not someone of my age. So for me, yeah, it was really embarrassing. And even now, sitting here, I'm wincing a little bit, thinking, am I really on this morning talking about this? But
that's why I'm saying thank you for that.
Yeah.
You are, because I know it isn't easy to talk about. It is a bit embarrassing. It shouldn't be, because it's perfectly normal. As we said, it happens to 1 in 3 women.
Why does that happen?
Yeah, how bad did it get for you, though?
Well, for me, it got to the stage where it was affecting my day-to-day life, and I couldn't do cardio anymore, which is something that I absolutely loved. I really feared going on long journeys when I was at work. I wanted to act super professional, just day-to-day life. And after speaking about it with a magazine, I was so blown away by the level of DMs and women coming through having prolapsed bladders, prolapsed bowels, prolapsed wombs. And I just couldn't believe it, how many people are actually suffering from this.
So, Doctor,
suffering in silence as well.
What does prolapsed mean?
Sure. So to understand it, we have to know about our pelvic floor. Our pelvic floor is a nice little hammock that is made out of tissues and muscles that hoists up the organs above it. So we've got our bladder, our womb, and it keeps it nice and hoisted. When that gets damaged through childbirth, through menopause, through pregnancy, through chronic constipation, all these things, that can actually mean that hammock loosens so that the organs above it prolapse down. So you can have a prolapsed bladder, womb, rectum, vagina, and in your case, it was the bladder that came down.
Did you feel that? Did you feel that there was something kind of
No, I couldn't feel it. No, I couldn't feel it. So fortunately, when I went to see a women's physio, I found out that it was a stage 1 prolapsed bladder, so it wasn't a prolapsed womb. So it can be fixed with, like, doing exercises, your Kegel exercise and that sort of thing. But you can't physically feel it. It's more of the symptoms, like, leakage or losing complete control over your bladder.
So don't leave it, I suppose, Sarah, is the answer.
There's prevention. Like, for me, sorry, when I was pregnant, of course, you go and see your community midwives, and they encourage you to do your pelvic floors. And my mum said to me, make sure you're doing them. But because I was pregnant and just so excited about that, I really didn't, I didn't do them.
Okay.
And you'd be so surprised how many women don't.
Doctor, these devices you have in front of us, there is help at hand.
Thank the Lord.
Well, what will Ferne have to do? Show us some of the things.
So, with the pelvic floor, it's really hard to know what to do to strengthen it if you can't actually see your pelvic floor. Sometimes people don't even know what they mean by, well, squeeze your pelvic floor. And that's where some of these products come in handy. So we've got the LV, and that's where you pop this inside the vagina, and it connects to an app. and it tells you whether you're actually squeezing properly in the right way, in the correct strengths, and you can kind of even play a little game with the app to strengthen it in that way.
And how often would you have to use that?
So they have different guidances depending on how severe yours is, but in general, I recommend with pelvic floor exercises that you try and do them, 3 times a day, because
So if we were doing that now,
just do it
if you
now.
explain to somebody, is this like, imagine you're desperate for a wee,
Yes.
is it?
Yes.
So,
And then you start...
So it's like, imagine
Holding
you're going for a wee, and it's just basically your pelvic floor is stopping yourself mid-wee, basically.
Yeah.
So you're stopping yourself, so you're like squeezing up, and that is doing your pelvic floor
And
exercises.
do you have to hold that for any amount of time?
So usually, it depends on different people, but usually we start with saying, well, do, quick successions, 10, 15 times initially. Once it gets stronger, then you can start holding it for longer and you can progress in that way. You don't have to do it all full throttle to start with. And that's kind of where things like this one come in, so the Kegel8, where it comes in different sizes and different weights. And so it depends on actually how progressed you are.
And your GP would recommend what size and weight you would need?
Exactly. So you would usually start with the lightest and the biggest, so that you can contract around it and not have to hold on too much, and then it slowly gets heavier and smaller.
So the smaller it is, the better your pelvic control, because you can
exactly, because you can really squeeze around it. And then
how long would that have to go on for? Weeks, months, years?
So there are different. So evidence has shown, for example, with these ones, that within 12 weeks it improves your pelvic floor by.
What is that?
So I got sent these yesterday. I actually tried them on. My husband was like, "Ooh." But they're really interesting because they've got these electric impulses that go through to the muscles that cause the contractions. So they cause 180 contractions in the half an hour.
I'm slightly confused. So you put the pants on. What
You
are
put the pants on,
up?
and there are. So you're wiring this to a device here.
Oh, right.
So he's actually doing it for you?
Yes, exactly. So it does it for you. So it means you can sit, watch the TV, and not even think about it.
You need those.
I need them. But this is, I believe this is something that you have to do every single day. It's not something that you can just, it's not a quick fix like, yep, you've finished your programme and then you're better. It can be fixed, but it's something that you have to, like going to the gym to keep fit and working your muscles, that's what you have to do with your pelvic floor.
Do you wish you'd listened to your mum now?
Oh, I do. But do you know what? It can be fixed. And I think the important thing is that you shouldn't feel ashamed or embarrassed. Go and speak to someone, your GP or a women physio, and you can get the right advice.
Yeah. And start before you get to the
start
stage
before you get
Ferne
that.
got
Start
to.
now. Start today. Start right physically
Start
now.
right now.
And please see
Do
your
it now.
doctor. Please. If you're worried, see your doctor. There is other help. There's women physios. There's gynecologists. Everyone. So please don't do this alone.
OK.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you both very much
Ferne.
indeed.
Lovely to
Thank
see
you.
Thank you, Sarah.